Today we're down here in Marshall County and I'm here with Matt Quinn of HITEC Outdoors. Matt, every time I walk in this store, I learn so much about new boat technologies, and that really is kind of your niche market, isn't it?
It is. It's been 10 years. This is our 10th anniversary here, right below Draftonville here in Marshall County, and we've had an expansion that's been great, but it's really been driven based off of the marine electronics industry.
When you talk about marine electronics, my boat is a 2014, and I brought my boat down here today, and it has the original trolling motor and the original electronics, which at the time was about as good as you could put on one. Not today.
Yeah, I'll tell you that, a lot of people come into the store and they're really confused. They go to the internet and kind of search things, or they'll go to the Bass Pro Shops and kind of look at things, and they get really confused. It's a very consuming type of thing. And what we try to do here is try to get people to understand what they really need.
The interesting thing is who's using electronics now. Initially it was tournament bass fishermen or people who were really passionate about fishing bass. Now I see as many people using electronics for crappie, walleye, catfish. Catfishermen are really using the latest and greatest technology.
That's exactly right, and the crappie fishermen have become the actual expert users of this equipment. They're basically structure fishing, and they need high-end electronics to be able to target those fish.
We've done a couple shows in the past with a gentleman using the most recent Garmin equipment, and I tell you, I've been using electronics my entire life. I was blown away.
It has absolutely come a long way. All of the brands have done a fantastic job of delivering technology to the fishermen in a really quick matter. Just in the matter of the last 4 years, the industry has completely changed.
There's several platforms. The big names that have been here for a long time are still there, but there's some relatively new names to the market. How do you decide what fits a person? If they come in here and they say, hey, I'm really into fishing and I need new electronics, how do you help them out with that?
We ask three main questions. What type of boat do you own? What type of fishing do you do? And do you use a smartphone or a flip phone?
That's an interesting question, smartphone or flip phone, and that is mainly driven based on how you actually operate the system.
That's
correct?
right. I mean, a lot of people that are flip phone users, they do not want to do a touch screen. It intimidates them. And the real thing about these systems is to actually operate with them. And so if you're not comfortable doing those types of activities and a keypad is much more proper for you, then that's the direction that we try to put people in. What's really made it here is that we've got a lot of people that want to retrofit, have the latest and greatest, and you can get that for not having to buy a brand new boat.
That's kind of where I'm at today. I wanted to come down and take a look at all the brands that you guys have, and I feel like I can have literally almost a brand new boat as far as how it's going to fish and perform without breaking the bank.
That's right.
And that's kind of the goal today. But it goes beyond electronics.
It does.
Trolling motors have probably made the biggest change of anything in the industry.
That's right. And we've got Minn Kota and Humminbird are real partners. They're owned by Johnson Outdoors. Garmin has a new trolling motor introduced called the Force, and Lowrance came out with their trolling motor as well last year called the Ghost. So there is a lot of technology. They're all integrated together, and we'll kind of go through a lot of that stuff here today.
The thing that always kind of held me off, and I'm really late to this game, most people have moved to these GPS style trolling motors. I'm using the old style cable because I wanted a really quick response, but they've made that much better too, haven't they?
They have, they have brushless DC servo motors on them. They're more powerful. They use better, they have more life for the battery because of how they're built. These systems are really gotten complex, and with that GPS, the best feature that everybody wants is that spot lock feature.
If you like to fish like I like to fish, and a lot of times that's offshore, it's hard to tell how far you are from a particular point, and you don't want to throw anchor, or you're constantly looking down at the screen on one leg. I like to fish the wind, so you're dealing with all these elements, and you're trying to keep the boat positioned in a way to cast to a specific point. This trolling motor now do that for you, won't it?
That's right. You can be alone. It's unbelievable how that's happened. I remember a time when I first got one of those spot lock trolling motors, went out with myself. I fish a lot alone, and that's a really important factor, is that you're able to control your boat, fishing alone. The wind was blowing 30 miles into a bay. It was early springtime. The fish pulled back out of the bushes, and I caught 40, 50 fish without ever touching the trolling motor.
You know, the other great thing is I noticed that you position yourself with your nose into the wind. I can't tell how many times I've seen people that will, a lot of them have remotes on them now, right?
That's right.
They'll walk, put the nose into the wind, and cast off the back of the boat.
Absolutely.
The boat will sit right there, not move a bit, and they're not even fishing near the trolling motor. You're like, first time I saw it, I thought, how are those guys? They must be anchored, right?
That's right.
Well, they weren't physically anchored, they were electrically anchored.
That's right.
Using GPS.
And not only that, it's integrated with their system. So whenever they see a waypoint show up on their screen, on the map, on the unit, all of a sudden that's from the spot lock of the trolling motor. So it's all highly integrated now.
So you talked about Garmin, you talked about Minn Kota and Humminbird and Lowrance. Walk me through and show me some of the features and benefits. If there's someone that's in the market that says, you know what, my boat's really doing fine, but my electronics and trolling motor need an update, tell me the difference between each one and really what the features and benefits are.
Sounds good. Let's go look at it.
Let's take a look. Now, Matt, this is the latest from Garmin. Literally, you can see fish on here moving. And I can remember, just not my last boat, but the one before that, we're talking 10, 15 years ago, they literally put a logo on there that looked like a goldfish, you know, like a little snack. That's what it looked like. You didn't know what that was.
They called it Fish ID.
Fish ID. You didn't know if it was one fish, two fish, or a leaf that the computer thought was a fish.
That's right.
A little different now.
Yeah, it is. The live scope type of product from Garmin has revolutionized this industry. It's a very tiny, skinny beam that shoots out and gives us live, real-time data of what the fish are doing according to that structure. So you point it to the structure, and you basically can watch the fish swim either to the bait or away from the bait. It's a frustrating experience if you aren't using the right bait, because the fish will go away from the bait.
You're like, man, I was right on that fish.
They are very sensitive. They're sensitive to interference problems. They're also sensitive to the fact of where you actually have to point them to be able to get the best image.
Okay, so boat control, obviously having the spot lock and other features that the trolling motor offer would help with some of that. Do they also offer a way to navigate contour lines and things like that?
They do. Garmin? They have their force trolling motor. That product allows you to be able to mark a spot and be able to navigate back to it, spot lock on it, do a circle around it, do a zigzag around it, you name it, it can do that.
Wow. And processor speeds, they get faster and faster and faster. The day of touching a button and waiting 35, 40 seconds for it to load up are slowly going away.
That's right. The interfaces have gotten really strong. The touch screens have gotten really good. And you know, it's really amazing how well the response is, because that's what we always talked about. With your boat today, we're going to make a big change for you from a user interface perspective with that response.
Absolutely. I've used these products. They're fantastic. Let's move on and see what we have next. Next up is Humminbird and Minn Kota. Great systems, but man, the size of the screens and the sharpness and detail of the screen look a lot different.
They've made a lot of advancements. You know, there's 3 tiers of products that Humminbird has. They have the entry level, the medium level, and the high-end level. And what's amazing about those kind of things is you really have to focus on what is going to be beneficial. So what those 2 questions, back to the 3 questions I asked. What kind of fishing do you do, and what type of boat do you own? Because that will qualify us basically on what layer that we really need to be in.
Talk to me a little bit about mapping, because I mean, I'm looking at this right here and it's showing me the water depths and spots where the water level changes. Where I can see these are main channels. Tell me a little bit about what all is visible there.
The real advancement in a lot of this is the mapping software. They're allowing us to color different layers at different heights or levels of the lake. And not only that, we can put a water level offset in there. So like on Kentucky Lake, we're at winter pool level right now, we can put -5 in there and it will automatically change all of our contour lines on the screen to allow us to know what the actual depth is at those locations.
If you utilize that correctly, that can be a huge safety feature. I mean, you never want to 100% rely on these for navigation, but Man, if that's telling you, okay, right around the middle where you thought it was 15 feet in the summer, now it's only 5 feet, 4 feet, that could be pretty important.
Absolutely. The red gives you that indication. Green shows that that's okay. So those are really, really important and valuable when you're running 60 miles down the lake.
Also, now you can do updates on these that will also tell you fish structure and hot spots and things like that, correct?
That's right. They have a product. It's called Smart Strike, and you actually put in the parameters of the day. What's the temperature? What are the skies? What time of year is it? And we'll actually give you little waypoints along the way to give you those indications of where those fish should be.
Fantastic. Now, we talked a little bit about live scope. That's something that that Garmin introduced that really changed the world of fishing a little bit. They just launched a new Gen 3, is that right?
Gen 4.
Gen 4. And there's some talk that there may be something coming out there too.
There is. We'll be knowing it in March. That's a big product launch for them. There's been a little bit of that out there right now, but it's going to be a very similar system where it's a mega live system is what they're going to be calling it. And we're really excited about that opportunity to be able to integrate with the existing Gen 4 and Solex Gen 3 product to be able to bring that to the...
That's interesting because that's me being a potential buyer today. You know, you'd hate to buy a system that limits you on some brand new technology that's going to be out there a couple weeks or months from now. So this can integrate in if I decided I wanted to go to a Panoptic style.
That's right. That's right.
Very
it's a really important part of the industry. All of these vendors are really working very diligently and very hard at delivering products to the consumer. And every 18 months we're seeing brand new products come out, and that's really what we're seeing today.
Now, if I wanted to take a Humminbird and match it with a Minn Kota, which they're sister brands, correct?
That's correct.
What advantages do you get by doing that?
Well, the autopiloting features, being able to find waypoints on the map and saying go to, and the thing autopilots itself all the way to that waypoint, and then spot locks on that spot. So those integrations are really key and huge. The other thing is getting your motor data, getting your radio if you want to have a radio in the boat. You can have all that through the interface of the system.
And I'll tell you, a lot of that sounds like, oh, I don't need that until you've used it. Being able to use that info screen to navigate, using your boat temperature, water pressure, speed, trim, all that stuff is on some of these systems?
That's right. It's on all of them. You know, when you start at this mid-level product, it's on there, and it's going to have those features to be able to communicate to that.
That's fantastic because we got all these dials and gauges on all these brand new boats. I've never been in a boat where all of them work.
That's right.
These actually work.
Yeah, they do. Come right from the engine.
That's kind of nice. Well, last we've got another brand that everyone's familiar with, and that's Lowrance, and they've got some new stuff in the market too. Let's check that out.
Sounds good.
Now, Matt, Lowrance, this is the brand that I currently have on my boat. So I have the touchscreen Lowrance screens, but they're about 6 years old, so things have changed quite a bit. And back then, having a Lowrance trolling motor wasn't an option.
That's right. Now you have that option with the Ghost trolling motor, totally integrated autopilot system, can do everything from the screen. If you want to go to a waypoint on your map on the unit, you can go right to it, spot lock right on it as well.
Go-to is something I use quite often. You know, you may be driving over to see fish, but I've always had to drop the trolling motor and then kind of ease on in because there was no way to just say, go take me back to that location.
You were the autopilot. Now it's got the autopilot.
Tell me a little bit about what Lowrance is offering right now.
So Lowrance has really changed their game as well, just like all the other brands. You know, you have 3 tiers. You have entry level, mid-tier, and the high-end tournament stuff. And really where we've got it is that Elite FS is the new product from Lowrance. That's the middle tier product. And then the HDS Live. It's really made integration of being able to put everything together on your boat just absolutely perfect. Those guys that are running 4 to 6 graphs on a boat, this is where they're going to live, is an HDS Live.
And you can get a screen big enough to split up 2 and 3 different views and still have plenty of room to see what you're looking at.
Yeah, you got a 16-inch screen coming out with these systems, so these screens are getting bigger and bigger. But you know, whenever you have motor gauge data and you don't have all those gauges in your dash, you have a lot more real estate to be able to put bigger screens, and that's where they're going with this.
You know, and it's absolutely amazing to me the image quality that you can get now with side imaging and down imaging, and now they also offer something similar to Panoptics as well.
That's right. They just introduced Active Target. It's going to be a product right here. It's a fantastic level of taking what Garmin has done, revolutionizing the industry. They're going to have that in their product family as well. It just makes it easier for those folks, just like if you're driving a car. If you drive a Ford, Dodge, or a Chevy, and you really want to stay within that platform, this gives us the ability to stay in that platform.
It's absolutely amazing to me to think that, you know, I could find fish on my electronics, but just the ease of navigating and linking the trolling motors to your electronics and one unit to your other unit in your electronics is making the game so much easier. Mine's 6 years old, and like I say, at the time it was top of the line, and it's truly a dinosaur now. So.
Yeah, I mean, networking from Bluetooth all the way to Ethernet, and then also the proprietary stuff that they all talk about. And then there's also now the NEMA 2000 network. So that was adopted a long time ago in the marine industry, but not very many people were actually following it. So there's going to be actually devices that we're going to be able to reutilize on your boat that even though you're switching from Lowrance to Humminbird, we're going to be able to reutilize some of those devices and networks because they are a standard.
That's fantastic. Yeah, I mean, that means you don't have to tear another piece out of the fiberglass out of the boat. It's there and it can stay, right?
That's exactly right, and that's a big benefit.
Easier install, and you know, why replace something if it works perfectly? There's no added more benefits. We'll stay where we're at, right?
Exactly right. So, you know, the thing we need to do now is we need to kind of go over and look at some of those details of the networks.
Okay.
Let's go take care of that.
Let's do that. Well, Matt, picking out what type of software and what type of hardware you want, that's the easy part. Making it all work together and work effectively, that's where you really come in with your expertise.
Yeah, and what we really try to do is explain that to people. You have multiple networks on a system. You have Bluetooth, you have NEMA 2000, you have Ethernet, and you have some proprietary things that all of the vendors might have in their system. So it's really important to kind of go through those to make sure you understand that there's not just one network that does all these things. It's a bunch of different things together that truly integrate it all together.
Talk to me about some of the components to make these systems network and integrate and work well together.
Well, the first thing you have is basically the MFD. So the MFD is basically the way that you view the system. So that's a real component that's important. The next is the transducer. All the transducers come along. This is the Panoptics from Garmin. It's a very sophisticated transducer. Has to be aligned and put on properly to be able to function properly. You know, and then we have basic Ethernet connection. So Ethernet connectivity is basically taking the systems and being able to network them together to be able to share sonar and software between those two systems. And then last but not least, we basically have the NEMA network. So the NEMA network is the National Marine Electrical Association standard. It's done by all of the vendors, so Lowrance, Garmin, and Humminbird all comply with this. And this is a methodology of being able to communicate waypoints, you know, all kinds of different things. So again, it's a network system, and it's all real important to the overall established network.
Communicating and getting a good, crisp, clear image is the most important part of this. I mean, how often do you put one unit on a boat nowadays?
It's very, very few times do we put one on, and it's because of that integration. When you find something in the back of the boat and you want to go fish those fish in the front of the boat, the only way to really have that done is when they're networked and installed properly and configured properly.
And you almost always have one for navigation and for scanning at the console. But you don't fish in the console in the seat. You do it up here on the front of the boat. So
that's
if
exactly
you
right.
mark a spot you want to fish, you can come right up here and immediately pick it up.
Exactly
Real
right.
time drops it on that spot.
That's right, and that's the beauty of these networks and systems. And all of those things are very, very vitally important that they get connected properly, powered properly, installed properly at the right orientation, and then configured properly.
If they're not wired up right, you're not going to get something you're happy with. Interference can be a major problem in these electronics, can't they?
Especially in older boats. You know, we really because of the power need of each one of these devices. A lot of the older boats, you know, in the year 2000, 1900s, it really hurts a lot of those boats. And so we end up putting all new wiring harnesses in there so that they can properly power these devices.
Well, fantastic. Well, you know, I think you've shown me a bunch of material, a bunch of gear, a lot to think about. For someone that's looking to do this, I would say get on the internet and research some videos, maybe this particular show right here, and decide exactly what you want in the system, how you're going to use it. I know that we're getting ready to get a different show boat for Kentucky Afield, and I believe that for my personal boat and the show boat, I want them to be the same. And right now, I'm just most comfortable with Humminbird and Minn Kota because I'm familiar with it.
Fantastic products, best side and down imaging on the market. The mapping is fabulous with the Lake Master mapping card, and we're really excited about getting that put on your boat.
Well, let's get the boat moved in, and then it's going to take a little bit of time to get everything else torn out. This is like a car rebuild. Get all the new gear in, and then I know you can go over with me about maintaining that to continue to get the performance that I want out of the machine.
Yeah, and performance is a key. You have high expectations. You're not spending a little money here, you're spending a lot of money. And what you really want to make sure of is that you're performing at a high level.
Well, Matt, here is the electronics that came on this boat quite a few years ago. They've served me pretty well, but I've been in some newer boats, and this is old school now.
It looks like it's time for an upgrade. There's an upgrade for your trolling motor here, and there's an upgrade for your graph. And I'd really say the biggest thing that I notice here is that you have a flush mount unit. And a lot of times what happens is the glare of the sun really hinders you from actually seeing this. I don't know if you've ever noticed, but there'll be times where that sun will hit this and really get back up into your eyes.
I have noticed at certain times you kind of adjust yourself to get a certain angle to be able to see the screen. So what's the fix for that?
So the best fix for that is we have mounts that basically replace the actual mount itself and put them on smart brackets. So Precision Sonar makes this mount. It's actually made for the specific boat. And really why that's important is it allows us to actually tilt the unit so that you don't have that glare coming back at you.
I got you. And also, I guess if I ever wanted to take this off for safety reasons, it's a lot easier this way as well.
That's correct. It's right there. You can also put locks on those systems from DuraSafe. And the other thing that I noticed here is we don't have any graph glass on here. So if you're flipping and pitching a lot, what happens? Jig hits that screen, makes it crack. You've got a lot of trouble. You've spent a lot of money on these units. The best investment is to put that graph glass right over the top, and it can anti-glare it, so it'll actually give that anti-glare effect to it.
It's kind of like buying an iPhone and not putting a screen protector on it, right? I mean, you're talking about the amount of money you're talking on one of these screens. Adding a screen protector can save you some...
A $49 screen protector can save a $3,000 unit.
Well, I think that we're going to have it all torn apart. Might as well when we go back with some of the latest and greatest and make it more user-friendly.
I think it'll be a great investment, a great part of your boat here. It'll make it a lot more functional for you to use. It raises it up closer to you, and it's just really going to give you a better look and feel.
All right, let's go with that. Let's do that now. You also recommend that on the console as well?
I do. We have those console mounts just as well.
Let's walk back to the console and check that system out as well, because it's also going to have a new Humminbird put in.
So what Precision Sonar's got is they've got a smart bracket technology that we replace the faceplate, and notice where the gimbal brackets are going to be. The smart brackets are going to be up and above that steering wheel. That is a really positive thing. It gives you full access to the graph, not just the top part of it, but also the bottom.
And that also can help with glare as well. I've noticed that when you take the screen, you got the sun coming this way, you tilt that screen, it creates a shadow on the screen.
Yeah, the actual angle of these is about 12 degrees on the consoles, and it really flashes right back at you when the sun's right in the rear of you.
While we got it apart, we might as well go ahead and put that Precision Sonar bracket on here as well.
I think it's a great addition to your boat. Hey, Chad, good morning. I think we got you taken care of here.
Well, I immediately noticed the boat looks a little different.
Your boat does look a lot different. The mounting from Precision Sonar is up here on your bow as well as your console. You got a brand new Minn Kota trolling motor, the Ultrex model that has iPilot Link. The foot pedal looks a lot different inside this footwell. It is a lot different than what you had.
The trolling motor looks a lot different, but this is what I was used to before I went into Motor Guy, but I'm gonna be dancing on the other foot now, aren't I?
You are. The switch is actually on the other side here, but you have all your controls here. You'll have your spot lock feature right here on the trolling motor pedal. You'll be able to turn that on and off. It's totally integrated with your unit here now, and we'll really learn and teach you how that actually works.
Okay. It also has the Precision Sonar bracket, got it up away from the steering wheel where that it can be seen right while I'm driving down the road, more of a heads-up style display.
That's right. It just makes it and puts it in that more visible view. Plus, it allows you to interact with it. So the systems need to be interacted with. That's what they're made for. They're not there to just be on the bottom of the boat or look good on the boat. They're actually there to perform and enable you to find and catch more fish.
So we've elected to go with the push button as opposed to the touchscreen. I am a wintertime guy. I'm always out here. A lot of times I'm wearing light gloves, or I'm wearing even sometimes bigger gloves. The push button for the style of fishing that I do is going to work.
It's very important, you know. Those are all those little things that you ask customers every day. What type of fishing do they do? You know, what do they like to do? What are their habits and all of that? So one of the biggest things that you're going to learn about this system is because you have a unit at the console and you have one at the front, you have to get out of the habit of just driving the boat to a spot, dropping your trolling motor down, and then starting to fish that spot. Now you're going to actually drive to that spot, navigate to where you find fish, and then once we put that waypoint down there, we're going to do a go-to up here, and this unit's going to basically show us right where those fish are.
You get on the spot, no matter what the conditions are, you hit spot lock, you fish that spot, and if it's not happening, you go find fish again, right?
That's right. You want to make sure that this is a fish locator, not just a fish finder. You want to locate those fish and fish those fish after you found them.
I noticed that you've already also put screen protectors on these as well, so tell me a little bit about that.
That graph glass is going to help protect this investment. We've got a lot of money invested here. That's how we can protect that investment.
Well, and the great thing is too, I was flush mounted before, which kind of took it out of the way, but it also made it harder to read and harder to see. So as a part of bringing it up in my vision a little bit better, it also puts it in a spot that it could be more susceptible to being hit. So
that's right.
Adding that protection is, I'm glad we went that route.
The smart brackets give us the ability that if you ever did want to change the size of this unit, you can still do that very easily. You won't have to rewire it, you won't have to remount it or anything. The smart bracket technology of Precision Sonar allows us to be able to do that.
I noticed that you've already loaded some presets on there for me. Tell me a little bit about that.
You know, the biggest thing that I think people really have a problem with more than anything is not the new equipment, it's just getting it set up for the type of fishing they do. So when we ask those questions of what type of fishing you do, we actually go through and configure these units to optimize what they're going to be using. So the screens, these 3 buttons here on the Helix unit, is basically going to give us the ability to go right to the screens that they're going to use the most. And that's what we've programmed for you today.
Okay, fantastic. We've also upgraded with some additional graphs and charts using LakeMaster. Correct?
Yeah, LakeMaster charting is probably the best that we have in our area. The freshwater market has gone by storm. It gives us the ability to color regions of the lake and be able to break down that lake. So, you know, Kentucky Lake's a 117,000 acre lake. It's huge. So where do you start? If you come to this lake and you don't know and never have been here, the best way you can do that is break the water down, ask your local tackle shop, hey, what are the fish biting in? They tell you 14 feet. Most fishermen will tell you how deep they're catching them, but they won't tell you where they're catching them. So that's the best thing we can do here is we can actually say, put 14 feet as our color highlight for green, and all of a sudden it shows all of the water at 14 feet for us.
Another thing is we have such dramatic water fluctuation levels here in the state of Kentucky. From summer pool to winter pool, and some of our lakes can be as much as 30 feet.
That's
Not
right.
as much here at Kentucky Lake, but for some of the lakes it's 30, 35 feet.
Absolutely.
This gives me the functionality to be able to go and adjust everything from summer pool, correct?
They call that water level offset. That's just another one of those settings, just like depth highlighting and shallow water highlighting. The third most important thing is that water level offset.
So if I'm in a situation where I'm used to catching fish at a certain level and the lake is 10 feet up, I can make those adjustments and changes on my graph to where it shows me the depths based on the water level being 10 feet up.
It makes it correct. We actually can calibrate the depth of water that we're reading as opposed to what our map is showing us.
The next thing is, obviously everything when I leave today is going to be working great, and all of a sudden 2 months down the road, 3 months down the road, if I run into an issue, what's the number one thing for me to remember to do to these units?
The biggest thing is to make sure that you understand the system. If you get a little bit of a challenge and you're in a challenging position, you can call us. You can call actually Humminbird Tech Support. They'll walk you right through those types of scenarios.
Keeping the system running and functioning and communicating with the other unit, which is the same style unit, takes updates.
You know, updates are probably my biggest pet peeve. I believe everybody should do updates, and the reason for that is the manufacturers are always continually trying to improve their product. They're adding features, and they're also trying to improve that product. A lot of times, the firmware in these systems needs to be updated. You know, based off of the manufacturer, those updates might be in a 2-month period, it might be a 6-month period, it might take a whole year. But those updates are very important, and you know, we do that as a free service here at HITEC.
So some people get concerned about an update. An update is not going to get rid of all the data that you have intentionally stored on there. It's just making it communicate a little better.
That's right. You know, updates don't eliminate waypoints, routes, and tracks. Any of your personal information is going to stay in there. The configurations can change, and that's what those new updates will allow you to do, is to put those new performance features in your system.
This trolling motor also could need updates, correct?
That's right. It's kind of a unique thing. You can actually run on your smartphone device the actual trolling motor. It communicates over the Bluetooth system.
Wow.
So it's a really neat option. If you lose your remote or your foot pedals not working and you broke a cable on it, you still be able to operate that trolling motor.
So there's an app that I need to go on Minn Kota and download, and then using Bluetooth find the trolling motor, and then I can configure it to where I can operate it through my cell phone.
That's correct. You'll be able to turn it left, right, turn it at whatever speed you want to run. You want to put it in autopilot mode or spot lock, it'll do it.
It'll do that all from the cell phone.
Yeah.
That is amazing. What other features I need to be?
You know, the biggest thing is we have what they call the one boat network. So the Humminbird has really canned this one boat network. It's really not one network. It's actually a group of networks. There's wireless networks. There's also hardwired networks from Ethernet and NEMA 2000. So the best thing to do is to really understand that there's different functions for those different networks.
I know that they're talking about some new software and hardware coming up. This is the brand new Gen 4 equipment, but it'll be easy for me to integrate some of that into this if I decide to go to a more, I don't know what their live scope or Panoptics is going to be.
They're going to be calling it Mega Live. So Humminbird's going to have Mega Live coming in March. And what's really important is that you do have the platform to be able to utilize that.
Nowadays, about every 6 or 7 years, the technology is completely, totally different, or even sooner than that.
Yeah, you know, that's just part of the deal. You know, our cell phones are in the same predicament.
Absolutely. Hey, I am super excited to get this boat on the water, and the spot lock feature is something that I have been wanting for a long time.
This is really the way to go.
I can highlight shallow water. I can also change the water level using the Lake Master. Those are all great safety features. I now have a heads-up display that's going to be more safety. There's also a safety feature on the back of the boat that you've added.
That's right. We've added the leash to the system, and well, let's go and take a look at it.
Let's take a look.
What we got here is we've got the leash. So this is a fantastic safety feature that we've been putting on boats for several years now. The leash is basically a way of not allowing this motor to get kicked up if you hit an obstruction in the water and flip up in your boat.
This is essentially like seatbelt and airbags all combined for a boat. I mean, obviously it's not going to keep you from flying on the boat, but it is going to keep this engine from coming up and literally crushing. Or who wants a 500-pound hot piece of stainless steel running round and round, sitting right next to him in a boat. So
you know, we had a tournament here about 6 years on Kentucky Lake, and somebody had hit the 68 bridge impoundment, and they hit it, and the motor came off and basically killed the passenger in the boat. I can't say enough about that. I was part of that investigation. I really didn't care to investigate that, but one of the best features that you can add to your boat is this leash.
Yeah, these engines are made to take the force going this way because that's what they're doing when they're pushing the boat.
That's right.
Not this way.
That's right.
There's really little holding these things from coming up this way.
That's correct. And you know, this is made out of some NASCAR material. It was actually developed by a NASCAR engineer. It's a fantastic product. It's easy to actually install, and really I recommend it for everyone.
Well, thank you so much. I tell you what, you've taught me a ton. I always learn a lot when I come down here, and I feel like my boat is better prepared not only to fish but also safety.
That's right.
Thank you.
Thank you.